Spike Lee to Ridley Scott calling Tyler Perry's approach disrespectful means something serious is wrong. And trust me, when you hear the stories from people who've actually worked with Tyler Perry, you'll understand why Denzel's spiritual radar was going off. Because sometimes the devil really is in the details. Now, here's where things get real. Because it's one thing to talk about artistic differences and spiritual principles, but it's another thing entirely when you hear what it's actually like to work for Tyler Perry. And I'm about to show you some testimonies that are going to make you understand why so many people in Hollywood are scared to speak out. Let me introduce you to someone who was brave enough to tell his story. This is Brandon Jay, and he worked on Tyler Perry's productions. Now, what he's about to tell you might sound crazy, but remember, this is coming from someone who was actually there.
Meet the Browns was the most stressful and hardest thing that I've ever done in my entire life. I had no idea that Tyler Perry Studios' schedule was so drastic. If you're working on a regular network show, they take a whole week to film an episode. Tyler Perry Studios, they film an episode in one day. The character was Jeffrey, a fat high school teenager who was very intellectual, who was getting bullied at school. I take 2 to 3 days to learn the entire script. On the day of filming, first thing we do is a table read. I know all of my lines. I'm ready to go. So the director, who is Alfonso Ribeiro Carlton in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he starts to block us, telling the actors where to go, where to stand. Mr. Perry comes in, everything changes. So we literally run the entire episode for him, and he hates it. Does that mean I have to learn a whole new script? Yes, that's what it means. Mr. Perry, on the spot, starts rewriting the entire script, and he's feeding me the lines to say, and the director is kind of standing on the side like, you better do it.
The new iPhone 17 Pro Max for only 19 Rand. Buy it now on Temu.
Liar! Liar! That can't be real.
Of course it's real.
No way! An iPhone 17 Pro Max is only 19 Rand?
Yes, it's 100% legit. Straight from official.
Because if not, they will fire you. Here is where the shoe hit the fan. So in the middle of Mr. Perry changing up the scenes, he says, I want Jeffrey to be gay. And he has a crush on his bully. That's not what I auditioned for.
Now, in any normal workplace, that would be considered a hostile environment. But in Tyler Perry's world, apparently that's just Tuesday. And the psychological impact on the actors, well, let Brandon tell you himself.
I remember the person that I wanted to impress the most was Mr. Perry. I always looked up to him, and he was just sitting on the side looking at me. He was just looking at me, like waiting for me to do something. I felt like he was about to fire me. Everybody's expecting me to pull something out. They don't even let me finish the third take. They're like, cut, we need to reset. So at this time, I just kind of black out, and I get so angry and frustrated in the moment that when they call action on the fourth take, I lose it. I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm crying. Not because I was acting, but I was feeling those emotions because of how overwhelmed I was.
And here's what really gets me about this. Brandon is telling his story now, years later, because he wants people to know the truth. But how many other actors went through similar experiences and are still too scared to speak up? How many people are still protecting Tyler Perry's reputation because they're afraid of being blacklisted? This brings us to something that's been bothering me about this whole situation. See, we've been talking about artistic criticism, spiritual concerns, and workplace issues. But there's been another conversation happening in whispers, another set of allegations that people have been scared to address directly.
I find it weird how whenever he came out, people was talking about him, people was disrespecting him. Tyler Perry was doing everything in his power to have him on mute. Now a white man is coming out. Now it's more important. Oh my gosh, Tyler Perry him. What about Christian? Nobody's talking about Christian, are they? I genuinely find it weird how black people ignore the fact that people who are rich, black people who are rich, they get rich off of the backs of us, and we continue to support the behavior. They have money to quiet people, and we continue to support their behavior. And then years and decades later, here come the Diddy case. I don't want to hear about it because y'all have seen the things that has happened to black people, but y'all only care when it's a non-black person.
Now, that right there hit different, didn't it? Because what this person is pointing out is a pattern. Years ago, when Christian Keys tried to speak up about inappropriate behavior in the industry, he got silenced. Nobody rallied behind him. Nobody believed him. But now that there are lawsuits and legal documents, suddenly everybody wants to act surprised. This is how the system works. They isolate victims, discredit their stories, make sure nobody believes them until it's too late. But truth has a way of surfacing. When you understand the workplace issues, the silenced victims, the systematic protection, you realize Denzel wasn't just turning down roles. He was refusing to be complicit in something darker. That kind of moral courage is rare. But what we're about to show you next will make everything crystal clear about why Tyler Perry's empire might finally be cracking. Now, I need you to buckle up for this next part because we're about to get into some serious allegations. And I want to be clear, these are legal matters that are still ongoing. So we're talking about alleged behavior here. But the testimonies you're about to hear, they paint a picture that's going to make everything we've discussed so far make perfect sense. Let's start with something that a lot of people saw coming from miles away. See, there have been whispers in Hollywood for years about Tyler Perry's behavior behind closed doors. But whispers don't hold up in court. Rumors don't create legal consequences. What creates consequences is when people finally get brave enough to come forward with documentation.
Before it started, he was already accused of doing something he shouldn't have been doing. There were rumors floating around that Tyler Perry was pressuring people to watch Netflix with him forcibly. If you don't know what that means, look in the comments. Now, this is important because rumors are how these big cases get started in the first place. If you think about Diddy, rumors for years that, Diddy was doing Diddy things. Jay-Z, before his lawsuit, rumors. Jay-Z doing this, that, and the third. Bill Cosby, they were trying to start lawsuits against him for decades, but his image was too clean. If they just jump out and say Bill Cosby did this, it's just so out of nowhere. People be like, no, Bill Cosby would never do that. And your lawsuit's gonna kind of fall. All by the wayside.
Now, that Netflix and chill reference might sound casual, but when you're talking about a boss pressuring employees into personal situations they don't want to be in, that's not entertainment. That's workplace exploitation. And according to multiple sources, this has been going on for years. But rumors are just rumors until someone comes forward with evidence. And that's exactly what happened when actor Derek Dixon decided he'd had enough.
Tyler Perry and Tyler Perry Studios are now being accused by one of their former actors, Braxton Wells, of covering up his NSA by one of their top executives. Braxton Wells is a former actor from the series Ruthless, was also featured in The Oval. Sound familiar? As you know, it was just last month that Derek Dixon sued Tyler Perry for $260 million. Well, apparently, Braxton Wells settled with Tyler Perry Studios back in October of 2024, not that long ago. He accused Tyler Perry's senior vice president of him and NSAing him. He also alleged that Mark Swinton drugged him allegedly. Mark is on the left. He's worked with Tyler Perry for multiple years, probably like 15 plus years on scripted television projects and movies. So Braxton Wells on his social media shared various videos, screenshots, and even his settlement agreement where he settled with Tyler Perry Studios, Tyler Perry, and Mark in this settlement agreement, which he also signed a non-disclosure agreement. In the settlement, he received $500,000. However, $201,000 went to his legal team. However, he's claiming that he felt like he was misrepresented by his legal team. He says that Derek Dixon's attorney, he had reached out to him before the whole Derek Dixon of it all, and he refused to take his case. However, wants him to be involved in Derek's case. It should be noted that Braxton is a former Army vet, and he says there were certain things because he's a vet he should have been afforded when it comes to his rights. He also filed a police report in regards to this. He had posted, even before he posted here, he had posted before he made the settlement with his claims. He believes the attorney that represented him were in cahoots with Tyler Perry and Tyler Perry Studios. Braxton also believes, even though he signed the settlement agreement and there's a non-disclosure within the settlement agreement, he believes that it's voided because he signed that under duress. He's believing that his legal team misrepresented him. He believes that they were working with Tyler Perry's legal team against him. But here's the thing. Although people settle for a variety of different reasons, within the settlement, it does say that they do not claim Tyler Perry Studios, Mark, or Tyler Perry, they do not claim any responsibility or being guilty of what he's accusing them of. However, like I said, people settle for different reasons. I just don't understand why you would settle when your senior VP is being accused of R-ing someone. According to Braxton, he alleges that Tyler Perry and Tyler Perry Studios are covering up for a predator.
Studio cover-ups. That's not just individual bad behavior. That's institutional protection of perjury conduct. When entire studios are allegedly involved in silencing victims, you're not talking about isolated incidents anymore. You're talking about systematic mistreatment. But here's where things get really serious, because we're not just talking about workplace exploitation anymore. We're talking about alleged SA and the person making these claims. He's not some anonymous accuser. He's someone who worked closely with Tyler Perry for years.
This person was me for years. He was claiming, that he had multiple young black men on the payroll, and they just had to show up when he requested them to be there. And clearly that's why it felt to him that it was okay to say these things. And I want to have these discussions. I want to be transparent with y'all about that. I've done my best to forgive this person, but it happens. It happens. It's not just women that have to deal with it, but it's also men sometimes. And it'll be men tempting men. And that's why a lot of my posts over the last few years have been about taking the scenic route, taking the long way around, because if that means that you can carry your integrity started, I was like, well, I got to protect me, because I'm saying no, and I don't want this person, as powerful as they are, to try to get in the way of my work. So I started recording. So I have them offering me money to take my clothes off. I have recordings when I wasn't working with them or for them. I have recordings of them confessing that, the other guys that they have on the payroll, all of the above. And the difference is, the wonderful thing about confidentiality agreements and non-disclosure agreements is that they can't prevent you from turning all of those things over to the police, because is a crime, attempted is a felony. And Tams, you literally just asked, why do we as black people have to deal with that? But sometimes it's our own people. Sometimes it's our own heroes. Sometimes it's the very people we deify. And we look up like, oh, they're doing so much. They're doing so much. No, they're also doing this.
Recording everything. Documentation. Proof. This isn't he said anymore. According to Christian Keys, there's actual evidence of this alleged behavior. And when he mentions many others on his payroll, he's talking about a systematic pattern of mistreatment involving multiple victims. Now, Christian Keys has been trying to tell his story for years, but nobody wanted to listen. Sound familiar? That's the same pattern we talked about earlier. Victims get silenced, discredited, ignored, until suddenly they can't be ignored anymore. And that brings us to the lawsuit that's currently making headlines. Derek Dixon, an actor who worked on Tyler Perry's The Oval, has filed a $260 million lawsuit with some of the most detailed allegations I've ever seen in a case like this.
Meet Derek Dixon, a man who's suing Tyler Perry for $260 million. Now, he's suing Tyler Perry for something called quid pro quo. Listen closely. Quid pro quo basically means if you do something for me, I do something for you. But see, a lot of times it's not that simple because there's an unspoken flip side. If you don't do this something for me, who knows what's going to happen to you? Now, let's get a little deeper into the story. Now, this is all alleged, so pretend I'm saying alleged in front of anything. Okay, so Derek Dixon said, look, he working at a party, right, as event staff. Tyler Perry's at that party. He said, oh, who that? He goes up to Derek Dixon and said, hey, you want to be in some movies and stuff? Derek Dixon said, oh man, this is my big break. Tyler Perry must see something in me. Now, thing is, to the public, Tyler Perry is known as a really nice guy. So Derek Dixon is just automatically assuming that. So Tyler starts texting him like, hey bro, like you good? Like what's going on? Derek said, what's going on with me, man? I just be chilling. Tyler Perry said, chilling in your new car. Look outside. Derek looks outside. Derek got a new car, courtesy of Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry said, matter of fact, you trying to act, right? Derek said, yeah. Tyler Perry said, come on my new show. Derek said, man, this dude is locked in. And suddenly, Tyler Perry start texting a little weird. He's sending a bunch of texts, calling all the time. Derek like, damn, slow down, broski. And Tyler start coming on a little strong, start getting a little bit inappropriate. Derek said, okay, let me just ignore this. It's all gonna go away. Tyler said, hey, come to the crib. Derek said, what? Tyler said, what? You work as event staff, right? Derek said, yeah. Tyler said, yeah, come to the crib. As event staff, bro. I'm not, come as event staff. So Derek comes to the crib. Everybody drinking, everybody having a good time. Derek drinking. Everybody leaves. Derek about to leave. Tyler says, no, you've been drinking. Derek says, yeah, that's true. Tyler says, you could just stay at my guest room. You good. Derek goes into the guest room. He don't got no pajamas, so he wears his underclothes, goes to sleep. Somebody climbs in the bed next to him. Hello, it's Tyler Perry. And you ain't heard me say it started to get wicked yet. We just getting started. Tyler Perry started grabbing on bro. Derek gets up. He said, yo, chill out, man. I don't really do that.
Sora 2 video generation is not available in our region.
It is if you're on Artlist.
Huh?
I don't do that. Tyler said, oh, my fault. Derek said, all right, bro. Tyler said, all right, bro, I'm gonna catch you. Tyler leaves. Tyler then texts Derek. This is the next day. Tyler says, look, bro, I got a new show for you. Now, here's where the stakes get raised. Right now, Derek has got a small part in one of Tyler's smaller shows. After this incident happens, Tyler says, look, I got a bigger show for you in a bigger show. Derek says, all right, I'll do it. So Derek Dixon gets a part on Tyler Perry's show called The Oval. Whole time, Tyler Perry's still texting him, saying, see, if my friends do stuff for me, I do stuff for them. Quid pro quo. Remember that. Now let's look at the flip side of quid pro quo. At the end of the season, Derek Dixon's character, who, side note, is a professional Netflix watcher who would do anything for money, that's his character gets
A quid pro quo arrangement. Career advancement in exchange for S favors. And when Derek refused to comply, his character got written off the show. This is exactly the kind of systematic misuse of power that people like Denzel Washington have been trying to avoid by refusing to work in that environment. Now, Tyler Perry's lawyers are calling all these allegations fabricated and scams. They're saying these men are just trying to get money from a rich and successful person. But here's the thing. When multiple people tell similar stories, when there are patterns of behavior, when there's alleged documentation and evidence, it becomes harder to dismiss as just money grabbing. And that's where Denzel's spiritual discernment that we talked about earlier becomes so important, because Denzel has been in Hollywood for 40 years. He's worked with everyone. He knows the difference between someone who's difficult to work with and someone who's dangerous. When Denzel Washington, someone known for his integrity and faith, takes a moral stand against working with someone, maybe we should listen. The lawsuits, testimonies, and allegations we're seeing now are exactly what people like Denzel have been trying to warn us about through their actions. This isn't just about Tyler Perry. It's about an industry that protects certain people as long as they're making money. Will justice finally be served, or will the system find another way to protect its billion-dollar asset? And if respected legends like Denzel and Samuel L. Jackson have been quietly protecting their integrity all along, what does that tell us about who we should really be supporting in Hollywood? If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, fam, keep it real.
Guarda, progresso in veruele.